Am I about to undo my entire career?
Hi, I'm Sam G. Welcome to Your Design Passport, the podcast for architects and designers building careers and lives across borders. Let's get started.
If you're an architect who's ever thought about moving countries, you've probably had this quiet fear. Am I about to undo my entire career? Because that was mine. I was already a registered architect in Australia when I found out, almost by accident, that Australia has a mutual recognition agreement with the United States. Meaning, in theory, I wouldn't have to start again. No repeating exams, no redoing years of experience, no identity crisis. Okay, maybe a small identity crisis. What no one really talks about is what it's actually like to navigate that process while job hunting, moving countries, and setting up a life in the US, all at the same time. So today, I'm walking you through how I navigated the double ACA, NCARB, and state registration, what I did too early and paid for twice, why state selection matters before you apply for jobs, and why getting a driver's license in Texas almost broke me. This is my Australia to USA story from 2022 to 2023. And if you're thinking about doing this yourself, I want you to learn from my mistakes instead of repeating them. Let's go. Mutual recognition. Let's clear this up first, because mutual recognition sounds way more magical than it is. It does not mean automatic registration, no paperwork, or that everything just happens. What it does mean is that your education, experience, and licensure are considered equivalent under formal agreement between countries. In this case, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. For Australia, the process starts with the double ACA, the Architects Accreditation Council of Australia. AACA, NCARB, and state boards. Who does what? Things get confusing fast, so let's slow it down. Double ACA assesses eligibility under the Mutual Recognition Agreement.
They review your documents, and this is the important part. They send your information directly to NCARB.
I didn't realize that at first. I jumped the gun, assuming I had to manage every step myself. I was waiting for some mythical second email, which led to a lot of emails from me that basically said, "Hi, just checking if you've sent it. No worries, just checking if you received it. Sorry, just me again." Very professional, very calm, internally unhinged. NCARB manages your NCARB record, acts as the central clearinghouse for licensure, coordinates mutual recognition with other countries. What they don't do is license you.
That's the job of state architecture boards.
State architecture boards, each US state licenses architects independently. I ended up in Texas, so for me, the Texas Board of Architectural Examiners, or TBAE. Honestly, such a strange name for an architecture board. Every state has its own rules, its own fees, its own timelines. State selection matters a lot. When you're coming from Australia, it's easy to underestimate how big the US actually is. Fun facts that stop me cold: Texas is approximately 2.5 times the size of Queensland. Its population is larger than the entire population of Australia. So, when people say, "I'll just move to the US," where? State selection matters. Not all states participate in mutual recognition, and the state numbers are subject to change. So make sure that you check this before applying. Some states accept MRAs faster than others. Some have additional requirements, like California, which requires a jurisdiction-specific application, and the California Supplemental Exam. Once you're licensed in one state, reciprocity becomes much easier. I was job hunting and navigating the MRA in parallel, which meant I had to narrow down what states I was eligible for, which cities had strong architecture markets, which climates we could actually live in. Snow, ice, tornadoes, hurricanes crossed off very quickly. And then there was Texas. People always ask, why Texas? 2 main reasons. First, reciprocity. Texas sits well within the network of reciprocal states. I was not emotionally prepared to go through the process more than once. Second, weather. We wanted sunshine, something that felt closer to Australia. And honestly, Dallas sealed the deal. International airport, direct flights to Sydney, major firms, strong construction markets. Also, Texans genuinely want you to love Texas, and they're not pretending. It's disarming. What I did too early and paid for twice. Back to registration. I applied to the AACA too early. Your MRA approval is only valid for 12 months. Life happened, job hunting took longer than expected, my approval expired. Meaning, I had to reapply, resubmit, repay the fees. Learn from me. Do not apply until you have a job offer and your move is realistically within a year. AACA to NCARB, the handoff. Once approved, the AACA sends your information to NCARB. Follow-up matters. I had multiple email threads confirming who had what, when it was sent, whether it was received. Eventually, NCARB confirmed. My record was updated, my evaluation approved, my certificate issued. Huge relief. NCARB record. Start this early. Here's another big lesson. I didn't start my NCARB record until I had arrived in the US and had been employed for several months. If I could do it again, I would start it as soon as possible. Start it ASAP. You do not need to be in the US or to have a US employer. You do, however, need identity documents, educational records, experience verification. And if confused, email NCARB's customer relations team. They're real people, they're helpful, use them. Texas. Tentative approval and licensure. After submitting my declaration of experience, I heard from TBAE. My application was tentatively approved and valid for 60 days. TBAE gave me tentative approval, valid for 60 days. I had to read and complete the registration statement, email it back, pay the initial registration fee. And then I got a license number. That was the moment it felt real. PSA, your renewal fees are tied to your birthday month, not any specific time of the year. Do not copy your friends unless you share a birthday. Arriving in Dallas, housing, and getting around. When we arrived in Dallas, we stayed in a long-stay hotel downtown, Mint House, right opposite the giant eyeball. If you know, you know. Everything in Texas is bigger, even the eyeballs. What I didn't realize at the time was that the Mint House building was actually the head office for the client I'd be preparing documents for in my new job. Within walking distance, no car needed. Perfect, temporarily. We later moved into an apartment downtown, and I could still walk to work, which was a blessing because the Texas driver's license saga. Australians can drive in Texas on foreign licenses for 90 days. After that, you need a Texas license. Your Texas license becomes your form of identification. Book your appointment early. I booked mine months in advance, only time slot available. Later, I found out you can check every morning after 7:30 a.m. Cancellations pop up. Changing zip codes gives you more options. At first, I planned to do the free road test at the DMV using our shared car. And then, the week of my test, my husband had an out-of-town business trip. No problem, I thought. I'll just rent a car. Wrong. So wrong. To rent a car with a debit card, you need a Texas driver's license or a credit card, which I didn't have. And my husband had the credit card and was out of town. The irony of needing a license to get a car to get a license was not lost on me. I had to cancel the appointment and pivot to the paid driving test. I did the test, got the results in a sealed envelope, and then had to fight for a DMV appointment before my temporary license expired. This may sound small, but it felt massive. I was new, at a firm, in a country, in an international role. I'd already told my team about the time off. Everything felt like it was falling apart. My colleagues were incredibly supportive. People even offered their cars. Although someone offered me a mom-sized SUV, and parallel parking that on the opposite side of the road felt ambitious. If I could talk to my past self, I'd say, take a breath, plan earlier, and ask for help sooner. Quick note on visas. Not legal advice. Always speak to an immigration lawyer. But briefly, the E3 visa for Australians is incredible. Lower costs, faster, no lottery. From job offer to landing in the US was approximately 3 months. The longest wait was the US Embassy appointment in Sydney, which took around 2 months. I'll do a deeper episode on visas later. Why I'm sharing this? I wish someone had told me what order to do things in, what actually matters, where the emotional stress points are. You don't have to start again. You do need a plan. In the show notes, I've included a full glossary of abbreviations and resources mentioned today. Coming up next, we'll be speaking to a recruiter and best practice for landing your first job in the US. If you're considering working internationally and don't want to feel like you're starting over, I created a free guide called the International Architect Starter Map. It walks you through the exact strategic questions you should answer before touching a single application form. You can download it in the show notes. If this episode helped you, share it with someone in the middle of this process. And if you're navigating it right now, you're not behind. You're building something global.
You've been listening to Your Design Passport. If you're ready to build a design career and a life that travels with you, hit follow and join me every other week for more global stories, strategies, and inspiration. Until then, keep dreaming, keep designing, and keep collecting those passport stamps.